The abandoned city. The streets of New York City were quiet, not the kind of quiet that came with a holiday or a late night, but a deep, heavy silence. Cars sat still in the middle of the roads. Storefronts were broken, their windows cracked and dark. The tall buildings that once glowed with lights now stood cold and empty. Alex Rivera walked carefully down the empty street. His boots crunched on broken glass. He wore a thick jacket, a scarf wrapped around his neck, and a backpack on his shoulders. He carried a small metal pipe in one hand, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. He glanced up at the sky. It was gray, the sun hidden behind thick clouds. The wind blew softly, rustling pieces of paper on the ground. Alex didn't like being outside for too long, not because of the virus, that had mostly run its course, but because of what might be out there now, other people. Not everyone was kind anymore. He moved toward a small store on the corner. Its door was hanging open, the glass shattered. Alex stepped inside slowly, listening for any sounds, but there was only silence. Shelves were mostly empty. Boxes were thrown on the ground. Someone had already been here. He walked to the back of the store, moving quietly. His eyes scanned the shelves, and he spotted a few dusty cans of food. He picked one up, turning it in his hand. It was beans. Not great, but it was something. He stuffed the can into his backpack and grabbed two more. As he turned to leave, something creaked upstairs. Alex froze. He tightened his grip on the metal pipe, his heart beating fast. He waited. Nothing. Maybe it was just the wind. Slowly, he backed out of the store and stepped into the cold air. Alex kept moving, staying close to the shadows of the buildings. His breath came out in soft clouds. As he crossed the next street, he heard a faint sound, a low hum. He followed it, moving carefully. The sound led him to an old subway entrance. The stairs were covered in dirt and leaves. Someone had dragged metal pieces across them. Alex listened. The hum was louder now. He moved down the stairs slowly. At the bottom, he saw a small light flickering. Someone was there. A young woman was bent over a machine, twisting wires. She wore a dark jacket and had a tool belt around her waist. Alex didn't speak. He watched for a moment. The woman looked up, startled. She grabbed a wrench from the floor. "Who are you?" she snapped. Alex held up his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." She narrowed her eyes. "Then why are you sneaking around?" "I heard the noise," Alex said calmly. "I thought it was something else." She didn't lower the wrench. "What's your name?" Alex asked. She hesitated. "Maya." "I'm Alex." The hum from the machine sputtered. Maya turned back to it. "If you're not going to hurt me, help me fix this." Alex blinked. "What is it?" "It's a generator," Maya muttered. "It powers the lights in the tunnel, keeps us warm." "Us?" Alex asked. She nodded. "There are a few of us down here. It's safer than up there." Alex thought for a moment. The cold air outside wasn't getting better. Maybe staying underground wasn't a bad idea. Maya led Alex deeper into the subway tunnels. The walls were damp, and the air was cooler. They passed through dark hallways until they reached a small open space. There were a few people sitting near a small heater. Blankets and supplies were scattered around. An older man sat sharpening a knife. A teenage girl sat beside him, staring at Alex with wide eyes. "This is Alex," Maya said. The man gave a short nod. "Eli." The girl spoke softly. "I'm Lena." Alex gave a small wave. No one spoke for a moment. The air was tense. Maya broke the silence. "I think we should help each other. Winter is coming. We can't survive alone." Alex glanced at the small group. He wasn't sure if he could trust them, but staying alone was dangerous. He gave a small nod. "All right," he said. "I'm in." The tunnels were cold and quiet. The low hum of the generator was the only sound breaking the silence. Its weak light barely lit up the dark space around them. Alex sat against the wall, rubbing his hands together near the small heater. The group stayed quiet. Eli sat on a metal crate, slowly sharpening his knife. The steady scraping of the blade against the stone was oddly calming, but also unsettling. Lena sat close to the heater, hugging her knees to her chest, staring at nothing in particular. Maya crouched near the generator, carefully checking the wires and switches. Alex watched them all for a moment. He didn't know these people well, but in this new world, being alone was worse. Then, a soft crackle filled the air. Alex sat up, looking around. "Did you hear that?" he asked quietly. Maya turned, frowning. "Hear what?" Another soft crackle echoed through the tunnel. "If anyone can hear this, there's still hope. Follow the signal." The voice was quiet, crackling through an old dust-covered radio on a nearby shelf. Eli's head snapped up. "That radio hasn't worked in weeks." Maya rushed over, turning the dial slowly, trying to make the voice clearer. "We have food, shelter, safety, Midtown. We are alive." Then silence. Alex stood up. "Someone's still out there." Eli shook his head. "Or it's a trap. You don't know who sent that." "It sounded real," Lena said softly. Alex glanced at Maya. "Midtown isn't far. If there's even a chance someone's out there, we have to check." Eli narrowed his eyes. "You want to walk through the city for a voice on a broken radio?" Maya crossed her arms. "It's better than sitting here waiting to freeze or starve." Eli leaned forward. "Or we could run straight into people who want us dead. You ever think of that?" Alex stayed calm. "We don't have much food left. This could be the break we need." The group fell into silence again. Eli leaned back against the wall, gripping his knife tightly. "I'm not dying because of some voice on a radio." "You won't survive much longer here either," Maya shot back. Alex sighed. "Look, we can stay here and wait to starve or freeze, or we can check it out. Carefully. If it's a trap, we leave. If it's real, we get help." Lena's voice was soft but steady. "I think we should go." Eli scowled but said nothing. Maya looked at Alex. "Then it's decided," Eli muttered under his breath but stood up. "Fine, but if this goes wrong, don't expect me to save you." Alex grabbed his backpack and slung it over his shoulder. "Let's move." The group gathered their things, what little they had, canned food, bottled water, whatever weapons they could carry. They climbed the stairs slowly, every step creaking under their weight. At the top, Alex pushed open the heavy metal door. Cold air hit them instantly. The city was silent. Cars were frozen in place, rusting and covered in dirt. Glass from broken windows sparkled on the ground. Vines and weeds crept up the sides of buildings. Alex took a steady breath. "Stay low. Stay quiet." They moved through the streets, weaving between abandoned cars and debris. The wind howled through the empty buildings. As they moved deeper into the city, they started noticing signs. Burned-out cars, shattered windows, and messages painted on walls. One wall had a message in large red letters, "No safe place." Eli grunted. "See that? Told you." Alex stared at the words but kept moving. Or maybe it's just fear talking. They passed through Times Square. The giant screens were cracked and dark. Billboards flapped in the wind. The heart of the city felt cold and hollow. Then Alex stopped. Footsteps. Far off but getting closer. "Get down," Eli whispered. They ducked behind an overturned car. 3 figures appeared in the distance. They moved slowly, checking cars and looking through windows. One carried a rifle. "Scavengers," Eli muttered. "Could be worse." "We should go," Maya whispered. Alex nodded, quietly. After hours of careful movement, they finally spotted the radio tower. It rose from a rooftop, tall and rusted. "That's where the signal came from," Maya whispered. They slipped into the building below the tower. The doors were broken, glass crunched under their boots. The building was dark and cold, the air thick with dust. They climbed the stairs slowly. At the top, they found the source of the signal. An old radio sat on a metal table, its wires tangled and broken. Alex stared. It's destroyed. A small device beside the radio blinked, a timer. It was a recording, Alex said slowly. Eli cursed under his breath. I knew it. But Alex wasn't listening. Footprints, fresh footprints in the dust. Someone was here, not long ago. They weren't alone. Alex crouched beside the footprints in the dust. They were fresh. The edges of the prints were sharp, not yet softened by time. Whoever had been here had left only minutes before. We need to leave, Eli said in a low voice. His eyes scanned the room, hand gripping his knife tighter. Alex didn't move. They could still be close. And that's exactly why we need to go, Eli growled. Maya leaned over the broken radio, inspecting the wires. Someone set this up on purpose. A looped signal doesn't happen by accident. Or it's bait, Eli muttered, and we just walked into the trap. Lena stood near the door, her small frame tense. What if they're still here, watching us? Alex stood slowly. We can't stay, but we need to know who's out there. Let's move. Quiet. They moved back through the building, their footsteps soft on the dusty floors. Every creak of the old wood made Alex's heart pound. The air felt heavier now, colder. The building was falling apart. Pieces of the ceiling had caved in, and faded office papers were scattered across the floor. Old empty desks sat in rows, covered in dust and decay. Suddenly, Maya stopped. She knelt down and picked up something small, a torn piece of fabric. Dark red. It's blood, she whispered. Eli scowled. Could be old. Maya shook her head. No, it's fresh. Alex's grip tightened on the pipe in his hand. We need to get out, now. They moved faster, slipping through dark hallways and down the stairs. The walls felt like they were closing in. Every shadow looked like it could move. As they reached the ground floor, a sharp noise made them freeze. A voice. Where are they? A man growled. Upstairs, another answered. Alex's breath caught in his throat. They weren't alone. Eli whispered. 2 of them, maybe more. Maya pulled Lena behind a pillar. We can't fight them. Alex scanned the room. A back door stood slightly open, its hinges rusted. He pointed. There. The group moved slowly, carefully, staying in the shadows. Every step was quiet, but the voices were getting closer. I swear I saw someone moving near the radio, the first man said. We'll find them. Alex reached the door and pushed it open slowly. The cold air rushed in. They slipped outside. They didn't stop. Alex led them through narrow alleys, weaving between broken cars and crumbling buildings. The cold wind bit at their skin, but they kept moving. Behind them, distant voices echoed. They went this way. Eli cursed. They're following us. Alex turned down another street, breathing hard. They couldn't outrun them forever. There, Maya pointed to an old parking garage. We can hide. They sprinted inside, ducking behind the rusted frames of abandoned cars. The air smelled of oil and dust. Alex crouched behind a large truck, peeking through the broken windshield. Footsteps. The men were getting closer. Alex turned to the group. We can't outrun them. We need to split up. Eli's eyes narrowed. Split up? That's suicide. No, Alex said. If they follow one group, the others can get away. Maya hesitated. How will we find each other again? Alex pulled out a small, cracked map of the city. He pointed to an old library marked on it. Here, meet at the library in 2 hours. It's safe. Eli grunted. If we make it. Alex looked at him. We will. They split into pairs. Alex with Lena, Maya with Eli. Alex squeezed Lena's shoulder. Stay close. They moved in opposite directions, slipping deeper into the shadows. Alex and Lena crept through the parking garage, keeping low. The footsteps of their pursuers echoed above them. "Do you think they'll catch Maya and Eli?" Lena whispered. Alex shook his head. "No, they'll be fine." But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at him. They moved toward the exit, pushing through a side door into the street. The cold air hit them hard, but Alex welcomed it. They were back in the open, but that also meant they were exposed. "We need to move fast," Alex said. Lena nodded. They darted through the streets, staying close to the buildings. After several blocks, they slowed to catch their breath. That's when Alex saw it, a symbol painted in black on a wall, a circle with a line slashed through it. He stared at it, confused. "What is that?" Lena's face paled. "I've seen that before." "Where?" "In the tunnels, before I met you. It was near a locked door." Alex frowned. "It means something." Before he could say more, a figure stepped out from behind a car, a man in dark clothes holding a rifle. He wasn't one of the men from the building. His eyes were calm, watching them. "Lost, are we?" the man asked, his voice cold. Alex raised his hands slowly. "We're not looking for trouble." The man smirked. "You've already found it." More figures stepped out behind him, circling them. Alex's heart sank. They weren't alone. Alex stood still, hands raised, as more figures stepped into view. They wore dark, worn-out clothes with patches sewn onto them. Each one carried a weapon, knives, pipes, even rifles. Their faces were rough and cold, eyes sharp and untrusting. The man in front, who had spoken first, took a slow step closer. His rifle hung loosely in his grip, but his finger hovered near the trigger. "You're far from safe zones," the man said. His tone was calm, but threatening. "What are you doing here?" Alex swallowed hard. "We're just passing through." The man smirked. "No one just passes through Midtown anymore." Lena gripped Alex's arm tightly. He could feel her trembling. "We heard a signal," Alex explained, his voice steady. "A broadcast saying there's shelter and food in Midtown." The man's smile faded. He looked at the others, then back at Alex. "That signal's old, been running for months, keeps people like you walking straight into trouble." "Who sent it?" Alex asked. The man tilted his head. "No one you want to meet." Alex's mind raced. They couldn't fight their way out of this. "We don't want trouble," Alex said. "We're just looking for supplies, a safe place." The man studied him. "Supplies, huh? Maybe we can help." He raised his hand and the others relaxed slightly. "But nothing's free," the man added. "There's a building near here. Used to be a lab. We think it has medicine. Maybe even something better, but no one's made it in yet." Alex didn't like where this was going. "What does that have to do with us?" he asked. The man smiled again. "You go in, bring back what you find, and maybe we let you walk away." "And if we don't?" Eli's voice cut through the air. Alex turned in shock to see Eli and Maya being pushed forward by more men. Their hands were tied behind their backs. Maya's face was red with anger, and Eli glared at their captors. "They caught us in an alley," Maya spat. Alex's stomach dropped. They were trapped. The man grinned. "See? You don't have a choice." The man pointed to a crumbling building in the distance. Its glass windows were broken, and vines crawled up its sides. Faded letters above the entrance read, "Genelex Laboratories." "That's the place," the man said. "We'll be waiting." Alex looked at Maya and Eli. Maya's eyes met his, full of frustration, but also understanding. Eli was breathing hard, fists clenched behind his back. Alex nodded slowly. "Fine, we'll go." The man's grin widened. "Smart choice, but don't take too long." Alex, Lena, and Maya were untied, but watched carefully as they moved toward the lab. Eli stayed behind as leverage. "Go," Eli growled, "but be fast." The lab door creaked as Alex pushed it open. The air inside was cold and still. Broken glass crunched under their boots. The entrance led to a dark lobby with overturned desks and papers scattered across the floor. "This place gives me the creeps," Lena whispered. Alex moved forward carefully. "Stay close." Maya examined the machines. "This isn't a normal lab. Look at this equipment. Alex shone his flashlight down a dark hallway. The walls were covered in peeling posters about vaccines and virus research. One poster read, "Genelex building a safer tomorrow." "That's a lie," Maya muttered. They moved deeper inside. The hallways twisted, and doors led to empty offices and labs. Then they found a door half open, with deep scratches along the edges. Alex hesitated. "Be ready." Inside was a lab, mostly intact. Shelves of sealed containers and metal drawers lined the walls. On a desk, a single computer screen glowed faintly. Maya rushed to it. "It's still running." Alex searched the shelves. "Look for medicine, anything useful." Lena tugged on Alex's sleeve. "Alex, look." She pointed to a wall where a map was pinned. Red lines connected different locations across the city. One was marked Safe Zone Active. Another was marked Project Silva Terminated. Maya stared at the screen. Project Silva, that was the virus. This is where it started. Alex's face went pale. "They made it here?" "Yes." Maya scrolled through files. They were trying to make something to boost the immune system. It went wrong. Alex looked back at the map. The safe zone wasn't Midtown. It was far beyond the city. "They lied to us," Alex said quietly. Maya found a small metal case on the desk. Inside were syringes filled with a clear liquid labeled antiviral prototype. "This could help," Maya whispered. They gathered the supplies and turned to leave. Then they heard footsteps, heavy, slow. Not the scavengers, something else. Alex raised his hand, signaling silence. The sound got closer. A low, wet breathing. Maya's grip tightened on the metal case. "We need to move, now." They slipped through the hallways, hearts pounding. Behind them, something moved in the shadows. Alex moved swiftly through the dark hallway, leading Maya and Lena deeper into the abandoned lab. The eerie, wet breathing behind them grew louder, echoing off the walls. They didn't speak. They didn't look back. Alex gripped the metal pipe tightly in his hand, ready for anything. "What was that?" Lena whispered, her voice shaking. "I don't know," Alex answered quietly, "but we can't let it catch us." Maya clutched the small metal case filled with the antiviral syringes. Her steps were light but fast. They reached a stairwell. Alex pushed the door open slowly, wincing at the loud creak. "Up or down?" Maya asked quickly. Alex thought for a second. "Up. We need to get out of this place." They climbed the stairs as fast as they could without making too much noise, but the sound of heavy dragging footsteps followed them. They burst through a door onto a higher floor. This level looked different, cleaner, almost untouched. The walls were lined with glass windows and locked rooms. In the center of the hall was a large glass chamber. Inside it stood a strange figure. It was human but wrong. Its skin was pale and stretched thin, its eyes cloudy and distant. Tubes ran from its arms to machines, and it stood still, unmoving. "What is that?" Lena gasped. Maya stared in shock. "It's alive." They were testing the virus on people. Alex swallowed hard. "This place is worse than we thought." Suddenly, a loud voice boomed over an old speaker. "You shouldn't be here." The voice was cold, mechanical. They spun around, searching for the source. "Leave the case on the floor and walk away, now." Alex stepped in front of Maya. "Who are you?" No answer. Then the door behind them slammed shut, locked. "We're not alone," Maya whispered. They turned to see a figure stepping out from the shadows. It was one of the scavengers, the man with the rifle who had led them here. But he wasn't holding his weapon now. Instead, he wore a smug grin. "You found it," he said, nodding at the case in Maya's hands. Alex's heart dropped. "You knew this was here," Alex growled. The man smirked. "Of course, but why risk my own skin when I can let you do it for me?" Eli's warning echoed in Alex's mind. "You can't trust anyone." "You lied to us," Maya snapped. The man raised his hands casually. "Lied? No, I gave you a choice. You made it. Now hand it over." Alex gripped his pipe tighter. "Not happening." The man's grin faded. He whistled sharply. More footsteps. 2 more scavengers appeared, blocking the hall. "We had a deal," the man said, his tone darkening. "No," Alex shot back. "You tricked us." The man's eyes narrowed. "Last chance." Alex glanced at Maya and Lena. They couldn't fight their way out of this. But then he noticed something. The glass chamber beside them had a keypad. If they couldn't fight, maybe they could distract. "Maya," Alex whispered, barely moving his lips. "Break the glass." Without hesitating, Maya rushed to the keypad and smashed it with her fist. The glass hissed and cracked. The scavengers froze. The glass shattered, and the creature inside slowly turned its head. It blinked, slow and confused, before letting out a low, guttural growl. The creature lunged. Chaos erupted. The scavengers fired their guns wildly. Alex grabbed Lena's hand. "Run!" They bolted down the hallway as the creature tore into the scavengers. Gunfire echoed behind them, mixed with screams. They didn't look back. They raced through the halls, finally bursting out of the building into the cold air. Eli was waiting, hands still tied, guarded by 2 scavengers. But now, the scavengers were distracted by the noise coming from inside. Alex didn't wait. He swung his pipe, knocking one to the ground. Maya tackled the other, slamming the metal case into his head. Eli kicked his captor hard, using the distraction to break free. Alex quickly untied him. "What the hell happened in there?" Eli barked. "No time," Alex shouted. "We need to go." They ran through the streets, leaving the screams behind. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of an old warehouse. Breathing heavily, they finally slowed down. Eli turned to Alex. "You should have known better. I told you not to trust them." Alex didn't argue. He leaned against the wall, catching his breath. Maya opened the case, staring at the syringes. "This might be a cure," she said quietly. Eli shook his head. "Or it could be poison. We don't know." Lena sat quietly, hugging her knees. Alex looked at the group. "We need to decide. Do we keep this and find help, or destroy it and stay safe?" No one answered. The silence was heavy. Outside, the city groaned under the weight of the cold wind. Somewhere out there, the scavengers were regrouping. And worse, that creature from the lab was now free. "We can't stay here," Eli muttered. He paced back and forth, the tension in his steps obvious. "They'll come looking for us." Alex nodded slowly. "We need to move before they find us." Maya sat on the cold floor, the metal case of syringes open in front of her. She stared at the clear liquid inside the vials. "This could change everything," she said quietly. "Or kill us," Eli snapped. Maya didn't look up. "It's not poison. It's a prototype for a cure. If we can find the right lab, we can finish what they started." Alex turned to Maya. "Where?" Maya pulled out the map she had taken from the lab. Her finger traced a faded line leading to a spot deeper in the city. "Brooklyn. There's another facility, more advanced. If the cure exists, it's there." Alex studied the map. The journey to Brooklyn would be long and dangerous. The bridges were broken or guarded. The cold would slow them down. But staying here was worse. "We go at first light," Alex decided. Eli grunted. "If we survive the night." Maya carefully closed the metal case. "We don't have another option." Alex turned to Lena, who sat quietly near the wall. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I don't want to be here when they come back." Alex forced a small smile. "Then we won't be." Dawn barely touched the sky when they left the warehouse. The air was colder now, and snow had started to cover the streets. They moved quickly, sticking to the shadows. But they weren't alone. Alex heard it first, the crunch of boots on snow behind them. "Keep moving," he whispered. Maya gripped the metal case tightly, and Eli stayed close, scanning every corner. A whistle echoed in the air. Then voices. "They're close," Eli muttered. The scavengers had found their trail. They ran. The streets of New York became a maze of broken cars and fallen debris. Gunshots rang out, bullets sparking off metal. "Down here!" Maya shouted, leading them into a narrow alley. They slipped through gaps in fences, climbed over fallen walls, and dashed through abandoned stores, but the scavengers were relentless. Alex spotted a broken sewer grate. Without thinking, he lifted it. "Inside, now!" One by one, they dropped into the dark tunnel. Alex pulled the grate back over them. Darkness swallowed them whole. The sewer was freezing and damp. The air was thick and hard to breathe, but it was quiet. They moved slowly through the tunnels, their footsteps echoing off wet stone walls. "Where does this lead?" Eli grumbled. "East," Alex answered, studying the map under the beam of his flashlight. "If we stay on this path, it'll take us close to Brooklyn." Hours passed in silence. The only sounds were the dripping water and their own tired breathing. Then they heard it. A low, wet growl. Not the scavengers, something else. Alex froze. "No," Maya whispered. "The creature from the lab was down here too." The sound grew louder. Wet, dragging footsteps. Alex turned off the flashlight. "Don't move," he whispered. In the dark, they could barely see, but they could hear it. The breathing, slow, deep. A shape moved ahead, barely visible. It was the creature. Its pale skin shimmered in the dark, its eyes cloudy and empty. It sniffed the air, looking for them. Lena covered her mouth to keep from screaming. Alex slowly raised the metal pipe, but Maya grabbed his arm, shaking her head. Fighting it wasn't an option. They had to run. Alex nodded. They moved, slowly at first, then faster. The creature shrieked and lunged. They ran blindly through the tunnels, the creature smashing through walls behind them. Water splashed under their feet as they moved faster, breathless. "Up there!" Eli shouted, pointing to a ladder. Alex climbed first, forcing the rusty hatch open. They scrambled out onto the street. Snow and cold air hit them hard, but it was better than the darkness below. The creature didn't follow. For now. Ahead, the broken frame of a bridge stretched over the icy river. Pieces of it had crumbled, but it was still standing, barely. "That's our way across," Maya panted. Alex stared at it. The metal groaned in the wind. "It's risky," Eli warned. "We don't have a choice," Alex said. They moved toward the bridge, unaware that far behind them scavengers were closing in. And in the dark tunnels, the creature turned its head and began to climb. The cold wind blew hard over the broken bridge, shaking the loose metal. Below them, the dark river moved slowly and looked dangerous. The Brooklyn Bridge, once strong, was now falling apart, old and broken. Alex looked at the narrow path ahead. "This is crazy," Eli said quietly, staring at the broken bridge. "It's the only way," Alex said. He turned to Maya. "Is the lab close after we cross?" Maya checked the map, her hands shaking from the cold. "It's a few blocks away, but we have to cross first." Lena held herself tightly as the wind blew her hair in her face. "Let's just go. Standing here won't make it safer." Alex took a deep breath and stepped onto the bridge. They moved slowly, stepping carefully on the broken bridge. The bridge creaked under their weight. Snow and ice made it hard to walk. Eli led the way, holding the railing tightly. Maya followed close behind, hugging the metal case to her chest. Lena stayed in the middle, close to Alex. Halfway across, a loud crack filled the air. A piece of the bridge broke off and fell into the river below with a loud splash. "Keep moving," Alex shouted. Then a voice called out from the other side. "They're on the bridge. Don't let them cross!" The scavengers had found them. Gunshots rang out, bullets hitting the metal around them. "Run!" Eli yelled. They ran, slipping and stumbling on the icy path. The bridge shook with every step. Alex looked back and saw the scavengers rushing onto the bridge, guns ready. But then, a loud, deep roar shook the air. The creature. It smashed up onto the bridge from below, its pale skin shining in the cold light. It moved fast, breaking through the metal beams as it charged at the scavengers. Gunshots filled the air, but the creature didn't stop. The scavengers screamed as it tore through them. Faster, Alex yelled. The bridge creaked louder, the metal starting to bend and break. Cracks spread across the ground. Then the bridge started to fall. The middle of the bridge broke apart, pulling the creature and the scavengers down into the icy river. Alex lunged forward and grabbed Lena's arm as the ground behind them gave way. They barely made it to the other side before the bridge completely collapsed. Alex dropped to his knees, out of breath. The city was quiet again. Eli bent over, coughing hard. That was close. Maya said nothing. She stared at the broken bridge, her eyes wide with shock. It's over, Lena whispered. Alex slowly shook his head. Not yet. Brooklyn was quieter than Manhattan. The streets were even more deserted, buildings half collapsed and covered in snow. The cold was biting now. Their breaths came out in thick clouds. Maya led them through the streets, following the map. Finally, they reached a tall building, half buried in snow and ice. A broken sign above the door read, Genelex Research Facility. This is it, Maya whispered. They forced the frozen doors open and stepped inside. The air was warmer but stale. The lights flickered weakly. Unlike the last lab, this place was intact, clean, too clean. They moved cautiously through the halls. Maya led them to a sealed room with a keypad. She entered the code she found in the last lab. The door unlocked with a soft beep. Inside, the room was filled with medical equipment. Shelves lined with labeled vials, notes pinned to the walls. In the center of the room was a glass case holding a glowing vial. The label read, Project Silva, Final Cure. Maya stared in disbelief. They finished it. Alex approached slowly. This is it? Maya nodded. This is the cure. Eli frowned. Then why didn't they use it? Alex looked around. The room was too quiet, too perfect. Then they saw it. A figure slumped against the far wall, a man in a white lab coat, frozen in place. He held a recorder in his hand. Alex picked it up and pressed play. The man's voice crackled through the speaker. The cure is finished, but it's too late. We are the last. If anyone hears this, take the cure, rebuild, or burn this place to the ground. The recording ended. The group stood in silence. Alex looked at the vial, then at his friends. This could save people, if there are people left. Eli crossed his arms. Or it could start all of this over again. Maya stared at the glowing liquid. We can't leave it here. Alex slowly reached for the vial. It was warm in his hand. What do we do? Lena whispered. Alex thought for a long moment. Then he closed his fist around the vial. They stepped back into the cold, gray morning. The bridge was gone. The city was quiet. The cure was in their hands. Whether they would use it or destroy it was a choice they would have to make. The wind howled through the empty streets as the first light of day broke through the clouds. The world was silent, but they were still standing, and that was enough for now.